sharing, and public engagement. Chraj and You, Chraj and You, a communications platform for information sharing and public engagement. Chraj and You, Chraj and You, a communications platform for information sharing and public engagement. Chraj and You, Chraj and You, a communications platform for information sharing and public engagement. Chraj and You, Chraj and You, a communications platform for information sharing and public engagement. Chraj and You, Chraj and You, oh yeah. Chraj and You, Chraj and You, Chraj and You, Chraj and You, oh yeah. Chraj and You, oh yeah. Chraj and You, Chraj and You, a communications platform for information sharing and public engagement. Chraj and You, Chraj and You, a communications platform for information sharing and public engagement.
It is a beautiful Tuesday morning. Good day to you and welcome to Chraj and You. This is the platform where we discuss and share information on the mandates and the work of the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice with you, our cherished viewers, followers, and our valued stakeholders. I am Rufina Dimbwe Pauvi, and as always, it is a pleasure to come your way every month with insightful and engaging conversations relating to human rights promotion and protection, administrative justice, good governance, and anti-corruption efforts in Ghana. In today's episode, we unpack the concept of child labor. We will explore its causes, consequences, the law, and the need for collective action to combat this challenge. We are joined by Mr. Mauli Avoto. It is an honor, actually, to be joined by Mr. Mauli Avoto. He is the Director of Public Education at the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice. He's also the Commission's focal person on child labor on the committee, on the Child Labor Committee. And so today, it's going to be a very interesting conversation. I want to remind you that we're streaming live from the head office of the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, located at the Old Parliament House in Accra. And we're also streaming on the official Facebook handle of Chraj. It is at Chraj Ghana. And so don't forget to hit the like button. Also follow and share this live stream to your contacts and your connections. We also want to hear from you. And so we encourage you to send in your thoughts, questions, and comments as the conversation progresses. Mr. Mauli Abuto, good morning.
Good morning.
You are welcome to Chraj and You. Did
Thank
I
you
get
for
the
having me.
introduction correct?
Yeah, I'm the Chraj focal person on the National Steering Committee on Child Labor.
On child labor, great. And so we're just going to move directly into the conversation.
Yeah.
As an expert on child labor, in your opinion, do you think that child labor is a serious human rights, child protection, and should be a matter of national security concern?
Thank you very much for the question. Yeah, the basis of human rights, as espoused by Article 1 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, is that every person, or every human being is born free and equal in dignity and respect. And so everybody, whether your age or your nationality or color, you should enjoy human rights equally. If you look at one of the cardinal principles of human rights, this is universality. It says that human rights are the same for everybody, it applies equally to everybody. Another principle, which is non-discrimination, is that you can't discriminate if it comes to the enjoyment of human rights based on anything. For example, if we are looking at children based on age, and so children are human beings, and irrespective of their age, they are entitled to human rights as any other human being. And so, if there's any activity or any action that deprives a child from enjoying such human rights, then it becomes a human rights issue. It's also a social protection issue in the sense that child labor breeds the cycle of poverty. And so if there's poverty, human development is affected. And so if children are engaged in work that deprives them of their development, then it becomes a child protection issue. Another serious area that child labor is affecting now in our economy is that child labor is becoming a national security threat. Anything that is national security means that it poses a threat to the survival of the state or the nation.
Okay.
And so child labor is becoming a national security threat in the sense that it's threatening the economic survival of the country. Why am I saying that? If you look at the world market today, the international market is having a challenge with the production of cocoa and gold. And you all know that cocoa and gold are the backbones of Ghana. They are the major foreign exchange earning commodities of Ghana. And they are threatening, because of the traces of child labor in the production of these commodities, they are threatening to blacklist these commodities on the world market. And so if that happens, first of all, our foreign exchange will reduce.
Yeah.
We may not be able to export those commodities to the market again because they will not have market. Then our industries involved in the production of these cocoa products and also gold, for example, the cocoa board and then the gold, the recently established cocoa board. Workers in those industries may lose their jobs. And when they lose their jobs, unemployment increases, there's loss of income. Those people who even would be looking up those people for, or those working in those companies, will also not have the opportunity to get those things that they have been, those small shop money they've been getting from them. And so it poses a serious threat to our national economy. And so it makes it a national security issue,
All
which
right.
must be tackled head on.
Mr. Buto, are there some forms of work that we can consider acceptable for children to engage in? And if yes, at what point can we draw the line? Or at what point does this transcend into dangerous, exploitative kinds of work?
Thank you once again. Children are born into families, and so they belong to families. They are not on their own. They are not islands. And so they belong to a family, so they must belong. And so if it comes to work, children are supposed to do some form of work. We call it age-appropriate work.
Okay.
So it means that it is not every work that a child does that should be considered as child labor or harmful to the child. There are certain work that children can do which is in a form of socialization or training, giving them skills so that they can also grow to be responsible or useful adults in future. And so if children are not allowed to do those kind of chores, for example, helping to wash dishes in the house, sweeping the hall and all those, doing some minor chores in the house, they would grow up and not know those things. So those skills must be given to them. So between the age of 5 and 12, a child can do what we call child work, where the child will be doing this kind of minor chores in the house.
Did you say 5 and 12?
Between 5 and 12,
Okay.
you can do that. But between 13 and 14, you can do what we call light work. Light work is any work that a child does that does not pose any danger to the child's development or education. So it means that the child should be in school. Even if you are engaged in light work, you should be in school. Whatever work you are doing should not affect your health, and then it should not affect your development as a human being.
Okay.
So this kind of work are work that can be done by children. And also our laws say, for example, the Children's Act specifically says that at age 15, by which time you have a child would have completed JHS or basic school, the child is legally permitted, or the minimum age at which a child can be employed. And then a child can also undertake what we call apprenticeship and other vocational training programs. And so from age 15, you are legally permitted to do that. So these are some of the work that our laws permit for children to do. And let me emphasize that the idea that children should not engage in any work is not correct, because we need to bring them up. We need to build their skills. We need to train them so that in future they will also be able to take over from us when we are not there.
All right.
Yes.
So just picking from the last statement you made in response to the fact that children should not be engaged in any work is wrong. And so for public understanding and for clarity, what do we mean exactly by child labor?
Yeah. Child labor specifically refers to any activity that a person below the age of 18 years, any person below the age of 18 is referred to as a child. So any person below the age of 18 years, any activity that such a person is engaged in that is harmful to his or her childhood, is detrimental to his or her development, deprives that person from attending school or benefiting from school activities, then that activity becomes child labor. It is child labor in the sense that the children are not, or the child is not capable at that age. It's not appropriate for that child to be able to do such a work that the child is doing, and also is preventing that child from benefiting from his or her right to education. Child labor has its forms. The serious aspect, which is very exploitative and dangerous to children, is what we call the worst forms of child labor.
Okay.
The worst forms of child labor, according to ILO, it has about 4 classes. It's in 4 classes, but categorized into 2 major categories. The first one is called the unconditional or intolerable worst forms of child labor, and the last one is the hazardous one. This is supported by the ILO Convention 182 on worst forms of child labor. So the first 3 that I mentioned that are unconditional or intolerable, they are those activities that children should not engage in at all. When they are engaging and they are found, they have to be rescued immediately and be rehabilitated into society. And so the first one is talking about slavery, forced labor, child trafficking, and debt bondage, or work bondage. Then the second category is the engagement of children in pornography or pornographic exercises, activities, or prostitution.
Okay.
Then the third category, the third class is the recruitment or engagement of children in illicit drugs or illicit activities like pickpocketing and so on. These are the unconditional or intolerable worst forms of child labor, which must not be tolerated at all, because when children are involved in this, it poses a great harm to their health and safety. And then the last one category is the conditional one that we say is hazardous work.
Okay.
And children are not supposed to do that at all. And that particular work is a work that is considered as hazardous to the child because by its nature or the circumstances under which it's carried out poses threat to the child's safety, health, and moral. These are the 3 ingredients that you have to look at if you are looking at work that is hazardous.
Okay.
You look at whether the work poses a threat to, or is likely to pose a threat to, the child's safety, health, and moral.
Okay.
So these are the areas that children are not supposed to be engaged, because the work is hazardous, and for that matter, they are not supposed to be engaged in it.
Mr. Buto, you are the Chraj focal person on the Child Labor Committee. So in your expert opinion, would you say that child labor is prevalent in Ghana, and how serious is this issue?
Thank you very much. Child labor is prevalent in all the regions of Ghana. Everywhere in Ghana, there's child labor.
All the 16 regions?
Yes, there's child labor in there. According to the Ghana Living Standards Survey that was conducted by the Ghana Statistical Service in the year 2013-2014, that is, I think, the level 6, it's estimated child labor at 28% of children of age 55 to 17 who are engaged in some economic activities. That's 21.8% that was estimated in 2014, forms about 1.9 million of 8 million children in Ghana as at that time.
Okay.
Apart from that, in 2017-2018, the Ghana Statistical Service, with financial support from UNICEF, conducted what we call the multiple indicator cluster survey on women and children. They were actually gathering data on women and children to be able to monitor the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. And so they also came out with a figure of 28%, which is about 2.5 million of children in Ghana as at that time. And so child labor is prevalent in Ghana in almost all the regions of the country.
All right. Director, what are the most common forms of activities or work that children are engaged in under child labor?
Yeah, thank you very much. Before I come to the specifics, let me say that because Ghana is agrarian, we depend solely on agric. Our agric is our major activity in Ghana.
Okay.
Agriculture takes about 70% of issues of child labor. Or if you look at child labor, 70% of that is found in agric.
70%?
Yes, of child labor is found in agric because agric is our major activity in Ghana. And if you come to the specifics, you look at farming, engaging in vegetable farming, cocoa farming, and so on and so forth. Children are in there. If you go into fishing, children are in there. If you go to mining and quarrying, children are there. If you go to domestic servant relationship, where we engage children in the house to support us in the house, children are in there. If you go to trafficking and hawking, street hawking, children are there.
We see that very often these days.
Yeah, and the serious and alarming area now is transportation, where children abandon school and engage in this kind of motor riding, aboboya, pragia, and so on.
Yeah.
That is an area that is so alarming. Another area is also scrap scavenging, where in the house, early in the morning, you be there and hear scrap condemned, scrap condemned, scrap condemned. That is another area that actually. Let us also not forget about the commercial sex working, or where children are engaged in prostitution for money.
It is common.
It's very common, and it's not by their will. They are engaged by other people, and then they go and work for them to take the proceeds from that. That is what we call exploitative labor, because you are using the person not for the benefit of the person, but for your own benefit. That is also another area that children are engaged in.
Okay.
Yeah.
What would we say are the driving force or the major cause of child labor in Ghana?
Yeah, we can group this into two major areas. We can look at the economic factors and also look at the socio-cultural factors.
Okay.
Under the economic factor, we know that poverty is the major or the root cause of child labor in Ghana, because parents are not able to make ends meet. They are not able to provide for all the basic necessities of life for their children. So they resort to child labor, or cheap labor, to be able to raise some money from other sources, or use their children for money, or to be able to get some money to support their families. And that is one area. Another area is rural urban migration, where people want greener pastures, and so they move from one location of the country to another. to look for other greener pastures to be able to provide for themselves. That is also economical. Another area is increased population resulting from uncontrolled childbirth. I call it induced poverty in the sense that you are in control of the number of children that you can give birth to. So you should be able to determine whether you'll be able to look after them adequately. And if you are not able, why do you produce more?
Yeah.
So if you produce more, you should be able to provide for them adequately. If you are not able to do that, you leave the children not being maintained, and so sometimes people can come to you. Let me take this your child to maybe Accra, and then I will let him or her go and learn a trade or go and attend school. You go there and the story is a different thing. The child is engaged in child labor. So these are some of the issues relating to economic factors. If you look at the social culture, you can look at the our cultural values. When you go to some people and talk about child labor, I say, what are you talking about? Go away. We have all been in child labor before.
Yes.
You have assisted our fathers on the cocoa farms and this thing before. So what are you talking about? So if you raise the issue of child labor, such a person will not support it and will not buy it, will not appreciate it, so you will not be able to desist from that. Then there's one issue about communal conflicts or ethnic conflicts, where there is conflict between communities and then people have to flee for their lives. And when they go to other areas, because they have to relocate to a new area, sometimes issues of child labor come in. And then people get, if you trace the issue of Kaya in Ghana, I have been told, I don't know whether it's, I stand for correction, that it can be, part of it can be traced to the ethnic conflict that happened some years back in the north.
Okay.
You know, that you can see that most of the people are from the north, and then it can be attributed. That's why I said I stand for correction, because I have not done any check on myself to establish that fact. So these are some of the areas. You can also look at broken homes resulting into single parenting, where either the man or the woman dies or they have separated, and so the one of them becomes the one in charge of taking care of the child, and so he or she may not be able to provide adequately for the child, and so the child may be asked to do other alternative jobs to be able to support the family or to fend for him or herself. So these are some of the issues that or the causes of child labor in Ghana.
So aside the immediate safety dangers that some of these common forms of work or labor poses to children, are there other physical and psychological consequences that impact children's development, and how overall it affects Ghana as a country?
Individually, first of all, it affects the child's rights.
Okay.
Because a child will not be able to enjoy his or her human rights as expected or as provided by law. And so the child's fundamental human rights, like the right to education, the right to health, development, and so on, will be affected. There are other issues like physical harms that are caused to the child. If you go to the fishing sector, I'm told when we went for a monitoring visit in part of the Volta region where fishing is one of the activities, that sometimes the children who are engaged in this kind of activities are beaten with the paddle that they use to paddle the canoes. When you do something and as a form of punishment, they use that paddle to hit your head or part of your body, and some sustain serious injuries. And it can also cause mental problems to the child, because the child's mental is not well built. And so if you hit it with something very hard, it can cause injury to the child. Some children even die in the course of child labor. Some become timid. Some have mental issues because there are certain activities that they have to do that they must charge. So they resort to this kind of drugs before they will be able to perform these activities. And some are affected mentally because of these issues. So these are some of the direct impacts on the child. As a country, we also have the consequence of child labor in terms of our human resource development. Because if children are engaged in child labor, most of them may not be able to complete school. They'll drop out of school. If they drop out of school, who is going to be our human resource or human manpower in the future to hold the fort when we are not there? And so the country is affected in terms of manpower because we will not be able to develop our children to become responsible adults in future. And so that has a consequence for the country.
All right. If you are just joining us, you are watching Chraj And You. This is the platform where we discuss and share information on the mandates of the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice with you. We are discussing the topic, concept of child labor. And so if you've just joined us, stay plugged in with us. We also want to hear from you. And so share your thoughts on this question. Should poverty be a justification for exposing children to dangerous or exploitative work that undermines their education, health, and development? We can't wait to read your comments at the end of the show. Mr. Buto, moving on. Let's talk about the laws that exist in Ghana. What are the laws that exist in Ghana to protect children? And what are the consequences or the sanctions for offenders?
Thank you. Ghana is full of laws. And as far as child labor is concerned, we have a lot of laws in there.
Okay.
We have both international laws, we have regional laws, and then we have the national laws. At the international level, because Ghana, we have ratified some conventions and treaties, we try to domesticate them in our country. And so those laws are applicable in Ghana. In terms of child labor, we can look at the Convention on the Rights of the Child, which is mainly on the rights of children.
Okay.
You can talk about, I learned Ghana was the first country to ratify it. And then
That's a good call.
we also have the ILO Convention 138, which talks about minimum age for employment of children, which is at 15. Then the ILO Convention 182, which talks about worst forms of child labor. So internationally, we can look at these basic laws that are very specific to child labor. Then when it comes to the national level, we can look at the Constitution of Ghana, Article 28.2, actually prohibits engaging children in exploitative labor. And so the Constitution frowns on engaging children in child labor. Then the domesticated version of the Convention on the Rights of the Child, which is the Children's Act of 1998 at 560, also prohibits engaging children in child labor.
Okay.
We also have our Domestic Violence Act, we have the Juvenile Justice Act, and so on and so on. These are also some of the laws that we have in Ghana that actually frown on engaging children in child labor. Child Trafficking Act is also there, which prohibits trafficking, or human trafficking, sorry. If you come to the penalties or sanctions, let me say without fear of any challenge, that there are laws in Ghana. And if you are not caught by the law, you think there are no laws in Ghana.
Yeah.
So in terms of child labor, if you commit the offense of child labor, you would be punished. The minimum punishment of child labor is 2 years.
Okay.
Or a fine, or both. But if you commit trafficking, child trafficking, that one, you can go in for a minimum of 5 years or a maximum of 25 years, or a fine, or both. So there are laws or there are sanctions for child labor in Ghana. And so we should be able to advise ourselves and also appreciate the fact that children are not supposed to be used abusively or to be used for work that they are not supposed to be done, because the law will catch up with you when you are found guilty.
So we have the Ghana Constitution that is very clear on prohibiting child labor or any work that undermines the education, health, safety, and development of children. We also have the Child's Act. That's also
Children's Act.
The Children's Act. All right. So aside these two laws that are very clear, what other interventions have government and institutions like the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, which you are the Director of Public Education, or what have we done in order to advance the cause of combating child labor and also to protect children's rights?
Thank you. Ghana as a country has embarked on a lot of efforts or interventions to ensure that child labor is eliminated. At the legal level, that we have the legal framework, as I have just exposed. We have the policy framework,
Okay.
where we come out with policies to regulate issues of child labor or the rights of children, and also we have institutional frameworks. Under the laws, I have already mentioned them. We have policies like um, the National Action Plan on the elimination of worst forms of child labor in Ghana. We have implemented 2 already. We are implementing 3. The first one was implemented from 2009 to 2015. Second one from 2017 to 2021. And then the third one that is currently being implemented, which is called the Ghana Accelerated Action Plan Against Child Labor. It's ending in 2027. So these are some of the policies that are being. This policy is actually under the auspices of the National Steering Committee on Child Labor, which I serve, which is the multi-stakeholder committee that coordinates all interventions relating to the elimination of child labor.
Okay.
So this is a policy that was developed by that committee. And also we have what we call the child labor protocols and guidelines for establishing child labor free zones in Ghana. Okay. There's a committee that I serve on this that developed this, and I think I'll be coming to this as one of the discussions. That is also one. Then we also have the standard operating procedure for addressing child labor in Ghana. These are some of the policies aimed at eliminating child labor in Ghana. Apart from that, we also have the institutional framework, which is the institutions that have mandate to protect children. They are all on the National Steering Committee on Child Labor, as I mentioned.
Okay.
So that they will be able to provide their services and also handle and take their mandates to protect children. And so we have an institution like Chraj, we have the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection, Ministry of the Interior, Ministry of Agri, Fisheries, and so on. We have a lot of institutions.
Even the police service? The
police is under the Ministry of the Interior. So, and then we also have the Ghana Immigration Service, which is under the Ministry of Interior. They are brought in because of this trafficking issue. Children are trafficked across borders for work and all those things. So Ghana Immigration Service, all these bodies come together as institutions that should be able to protect children's rights. And also you come to the district assembly level. We have committees at the district assembly level. For example, the District Child Protection Committee that is in charge of protecting children at the district level. If you come to the committee level, you look at a group like Committee Child Protection Committee, which serves as a watchdog committee in the community to monitor issues of child labor and report issues of child labor and children at risk. All these things are there to be able to ensure that child labor is a thing of the past.
We will be picking up a few comments from our comment section so that Director can speak to them. But before that, Director, as we are aware, Ghana joins the rest of the world every year to commemorate or celebrate World Day Against Child Labor. That is usually on June 12th. Mr. Buto?
Yeah.
It is. All right.
You are correct.
All right. So, what is Ghana doing this year? First of all, what is the day about, and what are we doing to commemorate that day?
Thank you. The World Day Against Child Labor was actually established in the year 2002. It's supposed to be celebrated annually to draw attention to issues of child labor, to review strategies and also revisit strategies to eliminate child labor.
Okay.
And so it is mostly used to raise awareness, public awareness about the menace of child labor, and also re-strategize as to how the issue should be addressed. And over the years, Ghana has been celebrating it with community debates. A lot of activities have been undertaken over the years to celebrate the World Day Against Child Labor. Last year, we celebrated it in BBNE,
Okay.
that is in the Western North region. This year, I am sure it will be celebrated in Asin North in the Central region,
Okay.
Asin South, sorry,
Okay.
in the Central region. And there are a lot of activities that are marked up. For example, there will be float, there will be public sensitization and also community sensitization. This year, we are trying to move the activity from centralized communities to decentralized communities, like communities that are not developed enough, and you think that there are issues of child labor there. A team will be going there to do community sensitization on the issues of child labor and how best we can address it. So that is also one activity. There will be a float where issues of child labor will be raised on placards. There will be march. I think there will be a march in Accra here along the coastal communities
Okay.
to mark the day. There is also going to be an intervention. The planning committee is coming out with a plan to be able to make some intervention in some of the identified communities in the areas where they have needs. For example, need for potable water, needs for school infrastructure, school supplies, and so on. So resource mobilization is ongoing to be able to mobilize resources to provide some of these interventions during the celebration on the 12th of June. Let me say that 12th of June is exactly a month from today.
Yes.
And so all of us have a role to play to be able to raise awareness, as I said, raise awareness about issues of child labor, so that together we can come together, come up with new strategies to be able to eliminate child labor in Ghana.
Director, you just showed us a few moments ago a policy document on child labor free zones. What is child labor free zones about? If you can just, let us understand what this concept is about and what it means in the fight to combat child labor in Ghana.
Yeah, child labor free zones is one of the policies developed under the National Action Plan 2, the one that was implemented between 2017 and 2021.
Okay.
The idea is that Ghana has been coming out with a lot of interventions, also supported by donor partners. But when these activities or interventions are carried out, how do we sustain this? How do we sustain the fight that children do not go back into child labor? So it means that there are structures, there are systems that are very weak, there are conditions that are not available to sustain whatever momentum was put in place when the intervention took place. So the idea came that why don't we develop a policy that will make sure that there are functional structures at the local level. There are systems in place. There are conditions in place that are able to support the system such that children that are in child labor can be taken out of child labor, and those that are at risk and are ready to enter into child labor can be prevented from doing that. So the child labor free zones is a geographical area which can be considered as an area council, a zonal council, or can be a zonal council or an area council within a district assembly that can be declared child labor free because of certain structures, certain conditions, certain measures that they are put in place to be able to support the fight against child labor. So child labor will not be exactly zero in that community, but will be reduced to the barest minimum, at least 10% of the children's population in that area. Let me come out with a clear provisions in this policy. It has a guideline as to how you can establish the child labor free zone in your area.
Okay.
So it has about 7 indicators that you have to follow. And the second part is about how you will be assessed. How do we evaluate you, assess you to see that you have actually met the criteria for declaring you child labor free zone? So it's in two parts. Part A talks about the guide as to how you can establish the zone, and then the part 2 talks about modalities as to how you can be assessed. There is a first stage, which is the pre-assessment, that the area council itself would assess. There's a criteria that they will use to assess themselves to see that I have qualified to be assessed nationally. And so I am inviting the national team. There is what we call the national assessment team, made up of institutions like Ghana Statistical Survey, local governments, and so on. So this team will now come and then do data collection of all that you have provided or what that is happening in the area based on the indicators set in the policy.
Okay.
And then if you qualify, then you will be declared a child labor free zone. Yeah.
So just to clarify, the child labor free zones does not necessarily mean that there's zero child labor there.
No. It's not zero, but we are targeting a minimum of 10%.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you are able to, your structures and mechanisms and conditions are able to ensure that children in that community children that are in that community are less than 10% of the children population in that area are into child labor, then you can be declared child labor free.
All right. And this is our final question for today. Mr. Vuto, are there any practical steps that government, communities, parents, the media, and ordinary citizens can take to help eliminate child labor and protect children's rights?
First of all, what I want to say about the state has a responsibility towards children. We have the responsibility to respect, protect, and fulfill. And so the state should be able to, first of all, fulfill human rights in the sense that it should be able to provide the basic necessities of life so that children will benefit and they will not be able to go into child labor. What I want to hit here is our social protection system.
Okay.
We have very weak social protection system in such a way that if that is not corrected, the fight against child labor may not, may not succeed, in the sense that, for example, if you go and report an incident of child labor to the police, for example, trafficking, to the police must make arrest and rescue the child. If the child is rescued, where is the child going? There are no what we call homes to keep these children before investigations, and the police need to protect that evidence, and so they need to keep the child somewhere. We call them shelters, so that they'll be able to gather the evidence adequately and very, but they don't have the resources to do that. So, and another thing is that when somebody commits, for example, if a father commits child labor and the person is sentenced, for example, as I said about the law, the person is sentenced, who takes care of the child? When the father or the mother who is engaged in child labor is imprisoned or something like that, who takes care of? Because our social protection system is very weak. Our extended family system is weak now, yes. And so you don't have any family to even go to. That is one area. One other practical area we have to look at is awareness and sensitization, as we are doing here. Let us continue to raise awareness about the issue and look at the causes and the possible consequences that we have if we engage our children in child. I've been telling people that as a father, at this age that you are active in employment, or you are active, if you are a farmer, for instance, you are active, you can work yourself. If you engage your child into child labor and he or she drops somewhere and is not able to go anywhere, it means that when you become old and you are weak, you can't do anything for yourself. Who will now come and take care of you? Your child is not there to take care of you, so you can't eat your cake and have it. So we should be able to look at some of these issues. Then we should also look at our educational system. Our educational system is such that we are producing children, we are producing graduates, we are producing people who have gone to school. We don't have the jobs for them to do. So now you go to people and tell them your child, you are not sending your child. But Kofi Mensah has completed university. Look at him, he is there. He hasn't got job. Why should I send my child to school?
Yeah.
That is so we should be able to revise our educational system that will provide skills that after your basic education you'll be able to function somewhere, and then you will not depend on this white collar job that all of us are fighting for. So these are some of the areas. The last one I would say is government commitment to the fight against child labor. Institutions that are mandated to protect children do not have the resources, the adequate, let me say, the adequate resources to be able to fight child labor or to be able to come up with interventions that will support the fight against child labor. So government should be committed and allocate adequate resources to institutions such as Chraj that have the right or the mandate to protect children to be able to deliver on their mandates effectively.
Mr. Buto, something just dropped on my mind, even though I just indicated that that was our last question. Does this concept of friend of the child, am I right, within the context of Chraj? So in instances where the child is not able to come out to report instances of child labor that they have been engaged in or work that they have been engaged in that is dangerous or hazardous to them, what can the child of the friend do to intervene?
Yeah, let me first of all clarify something. Issues of child labor, the greater part of it, especially the worst forms, are criminal.
Okay.
And so church cannot entertain.
Okay.
What we can do is to do advocacy and sensitization and also refer when we get such cases. But if there is any minor one that we can handle, then if a child cannot go, the child can go through a friend of the child who may be an adult who would the child would be very the child can confine in, because there are certain things that the child may tell you that you are not supposed to because of the age of the child.
Okay.
You are not supposed to expose and all those things. So the child must have confidence in such a person that he or she would go through to lodge a complaint when there is a violation or there is a child labor incident. Yeah.
Okay, so the appropriate forum
Yeah.
to report child labor issues
Yeah.
is
The police.
the police.
Yes.
All right. Viewers, there you have it. The appropriate forum to report instances of child labor is to the police. However, the child or a friend of the child can come to Chraj, and Chraj may refer them to the police or to the appropriate body to handle the matter. We will now take comments from our viewers. We're just going to go quickly to our Facebook channel. The official Facebook handle of Chraj is @Chraj Ghana. And I'm going to read a few comments from our handle. We have one comment from Nassam Al-Hassan Abukari. He says, a very important topic. Thank you, Mr. Al-Hassan Abukari. We also have one from Philippa Ofori. She says, I barely hear the last things to consider for child labor. That's safety, health, and okay. So there was a point that she couldn't hear us. So she said she could barely hear what we said when we're talking about things to consider for child labor. So Mr. Abuto, if you can quickly.
That's hazardous work that is likely to harm or to affect the health, safety, and moral of the child.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abuto. We have somebody who also quickly responded to that. Thank you for the intervention. Amos, the Starboy Remedy. We appreciate the quick response to that. He said the three things to consider is hazardous form of child labor is safety, health, and moral. Thank you for that. Quickly, we're going to go to a comment from Amos, the Starboy Remedy again. He says, poverty should not be a justification for engaging in child labor. That is in response to our earlier question. He says the government, for this reason, has formulated policies like livelihood empowerment against poverty, which is LEAP, the National Health Insurance, and free and mandatory basic education to us. Say that again.
Quiet.
All right. And free and mandatory basic education to assist the improvised in the society. Let me just take the comment again so that Mr. Vuto can quickly react to it. Amos, the Starboy Remedy, says Poverty should not be a justification for engaging in child labor. And he goes on to give us his reasons why he's saying this. He says that the government, for this reason, has formulated policies like livelihood empowerment against poverty, which is the LEAP, the National Health Insurance, and the free and mandatory basic education to assist the impoverished in society. So he goes on to introduce, okay, he's Amos Anafo from the Gambaga office of Chraj. Mr. Vuto, quickly, your reactions to this.
Yeah. Let me say that we did not say here that poverty is a justification, it's a root cause, but it's not the justification for engaging children in child labor. And I went further to say, but some of the poverty issues, I call them self-induced, where you give birth to more than unnecessary children that you cannot adequately provide for. You may be compelled in one way or the other to use some of them for child labor. So we are not saying poverty is a justification. It is very true that government is coming out with or is in with a lot of interventions like the LEAP you talk about, the health insurance, the capitation grant, the school feeding, and then the almighty free SHS. All these social interventions are aimed at supporting parents to be able to support their children to go to school.
Okay, I'll take a few more comments. We have one from Francis Kujo. He says that it's a very important topic indeed. A child's smile is worth more than any labor. Children are gifts to society, not tools for labor. I think this is a very interesting comment. I like it. And so, ladies and gentlemen, all too soon, we have come to the end of this episode. One thing is clear today after all of the discussions that we have had, and it is that child labor is an issue we should not ignore, we should not excuse, and we should not normalize. And so we all share responsibility to protect children's rights and safeguard their future. And so the fight against child labor requires action from all of us. I want to say a very big thank you to our guest, Mr. Mauli Avuto. He is the Director for Public Education at the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice. He's also the Chraj focal person on the Child Labor Committee. I also want to say a very big thank you to you, our cherished viewers, for always making the time to join us every single month on Chraj And You. I want to remind you that if you haven't followed the Commission on Human Rights, please do so. We are at Chraj Ghana on all social media platforms. You can also visit our website at www.chraj.gov.gh for additional information on the mandates and the services of Chraj. Please remember that you can find all episodes of Chraj And You on our official YouTube channel. It is at Chraj Ghana. My name is Rufina Dimbwe Palvi. And before we leave, I want to leave you with this quote from Grace Abbott. She says, "Child labor and poverty are inevitably bound together. And if you continue to use the labor of children as the treatment for the social disease of poverty, you will have both poverty and child labor till the end of time." Until next time, have a very good morning. Thank you for watching.
Chraj And You, a communications platform for information sharing and public engagement. Chraj And You,